Alright, let's talk about Veigar's abilities. Veigar's passive is the bread and butter of his kit. Veigar gains a stack of Phenomenal Evil whenever he hits an enemy champion with an ability, and adds 3 stacks whenever he scores a champion takedown. Veigar gains 1 ability power for every stack of Phenomenal Evil. This is essentially the AP version of the Nasus Q. This is what allows Veigar to scale infinitely into the late game. Veigar's Q is the bread and butter of his kit. It is Baleful Strike. Baleful Strike's passive upon killing a unit with Baleful Strike grants 1 stack of Phenomenal Evil, doubled against large minions and monsters. Active, Veigar unleashes a bolt of dark energy in the target direction, dealing magic damage to the first 2 enemies hit. This is extremely important to note because you can kill 2 minions at a time with this, granting you 2 permanent ability power. If you use this correctly, you can stack so much AP and scale infinitely into the late game. Its magic damage isn't that high to start off with, it's basically an auto attack, but the more and more you level it up, the more damage it will do, and it scales 60% with your ability power. A good thing to note is this ability has an extremely low mana cost, so you can use it quite frequently, and I suggest taking this ability first and maxing it first. Your W is Dark Matter. Upon activating it, Veigar calls a mass of dark matter to fall from the sky to the target location, which lands after 1.25 second delay, dealing magic damage to all enemies hit by it. So it's an area of effect circular magic damage ability, which is on a 1.25 second delay. Its magic damage is insane. It starts out off at 100, and once it's maxed, it does 300. But most importantly, it scales 100% with your ability power. So late game, when you have around 1,000 ability power, that thing's going to be falling out of the sky doing over 1,000 damage. It's ridiculous. Whenever you're using it, bear in mind that there is a 1.25 second delay. So if you're just throwing it out there, an enemy is usually going to dodge it, especially if they've played League of Legends at all. And also, whenever you use it for the 1.25 seconds, there's a dark mark and a noise that it makes. So they can not only hear it falling from the sky, but they can also see it before it lands, so it's quite easy for them to dodge it. This leads us into our third ability, which is our E. Event Horizon. It's arguably one of Veigar's strongest abilities, even though it does 0 damage by itself. Upon activating, Veigar forms a cage around the target, which materializes after 0.5 seconds and lasts for 3 seconds, knocking down and stunning all enemies who pass through its edges for the first time. This is a great spell. It's what Veigar uses to set up all of his abilities, and it is an area of effect stun if they run into the edges, or if you cast it to where they're walking and it'll spawn on the edge. If you learn how to use it properly, you can use it to where you'll automatically hit them with the edge of it without them having to even run into it. That will take a lot of practice and a lot of tries. I suggest taking this ability at level 2 and maxing it second. Veigar's ultimate does the most damage out of any ability in his kit. Veigar blasts the enemy champion with Primordial Energy, dealing them magic damage. Primordial Burst deals 1.5% increased damage for every 1% of the target's missing health, up to double damage against targets below 33% of their maximum health. So you should think of this as an ability that you want to hit the enemy with when they're low on health, or after you have used your other abilities on them, so that way you can maximize your damage. It does more damage based off of how much health they're already missing. To put that in perspective, it has a base scaling of the AP of 75% ability power, so if they have full health and use it on them, it's only going to use 75% of your ability power. But if they're below 33% of their maximum health, it'll scale with 150% of your ability power. So if you have 1,000 ability power, it's going to do 1,500 extra ability power, not to mention its massive base damage values. Since they changed it to not scale off of the enemy's total ability power, and they changed it to scale off of how much health they're missing, this is a massive buff to Veigar because it will overall give him more damage and will also allow him to one-shot 80 carries and 80 base champions much easier. If for some reason you got lost or you just don't understand what I was talking about when I was saying which abilities you should max first or which ones you should level up first, this is the leveling order that you should use. Let's go over the runes real quick. So as Veigar, you typically only need 2 pages of runes, and these pages are going to be your AP versus AD. And so that's basically when you're going up against a Zed or a Talon or an AD carry mid lane. And so they're going to be doing primarily AD damage. So this is what you're going to want to take. You're going to want to take flat Magic Pen reds, flat armor yellows. You really need the flat armor yellows because typically AD people mid are very aggressive pre-6. And you're going to need this to get you through lane. You're also going to want to take scaling AP glyphs and flat AP quintessences. Now, this is the second page you're going to want, your AP versus AP. If you're going to get up against something like a Syndra, a Cassiopeia, an Annie, anything that does ability power mid lane, this is the page you're pretty much going to want. You're going to want, it's the same, it's very similar, but just a little different. Flat magic pen reds, scaling per health level yellows. The reason for this is the scaling per health is going to help you out a lot more than flat armor yellows, since they are doing mostly AP damage. Your scaling health, especially at level 6, is going to give you a massive bang for your buck, and at level 6, even with their ultimate, they're typically not going to be able to one-shot you. And you're going to also go and want to take scaling per level magic resist blues and flat AP quints. And you might be saying, yo, Veigar's all of his spells scale with ability power. Why would you take scaling magic resist? The reason for that is magic resist can be very expensive to buy, and also whenever you're playing as Veigar, the enemy team's usually focusing you pretty hard since you're squishy, and you're going to want to be able to survive their burst. Also in lane, once you're level 6 especially, this scaling magic per level will help you out a lot. They won't be able to one-shot you, and it will give you overall just a lot of sustain and everything you need. If you're in a lane matchup that's extremely reliant on skill shots, then I would highly suggest you taking this page right here. It's pretty much the same as others, except the difference is you're going to take flat movement speed quints. It's going to get you around a lot quicker. You're going to be able to dodge their skill shots. I'd highly suggest taking flat movement speed quints instead of flat AP quintessences whenever you're in a lane matchup where your opponent relies heavily on skill shots. Champions like Syndra and Zyra are a good example of this, where their only real damage comes from their skill shots, and if you can dodge it, you can completely negate like 90% of their damage. Veigar's masteries are extremely simple. You're going to take Sorcery for the 2% increased ability damage. Then you're also going to take Feast. It's going to help you out a lot early game. You're going to take Vampirism. It's going to help you a lot early game as well. And Oppressor. Oppressor is really good because if you ever land your stun and do your combo, everything's going to be doing 2.5% more damage. Or if your teammates use a CC on them, it'll do 2.5% more damage as well. You might be thinking, why not take Bounty Hunter? Veigar does a lot of damage, and you might as well have 1% increased damage for each enemy you kill, each unique enemy you kill, up to 5% rather than the Oppressor. And that does make sense in a way, but if you really think about it, Oppressor is the best. It's going to give you a lot more damage early game, and Veigar really doesn't get a lot of kills. He mainly only gets kills on the same targets, which are the squishies, which are typically just the mid laner and the ADC. So taking Oppressor is by far the best choice. Now you're going to want to take 18 and counting. You're going to want to take the 5 Savagery. The reason for the 5 Savagery is Veigar, with the Wanderer, he hardly ever leaves lane. Veigar's pretty much in lane 90% of the time, just farming and just doing his thing. So if you're in lane farming, then that counts that as you're actually in combat. So you're not benefiting from the Wanderer, so it doesn't make sense to take that. So you're going to want to actually take the Savagery. It'll help you a lot with your last hitting with your auto attack. So if they're pressuring you, you can still last hit without wasting mana. Or if your Q is on cooldown, you can last hit without wasting mana. Also, it's going to make your Q easier last hit as well, stacking your ability power quite nicely. You're going to want to take Secret Stash if you're not doing the Corruption Potion start. It's good. It's going to give you those biscuits. If you are doing the Corruption Potion start, you can either take Assassin or Runic Affinity. That is just personal preference. Then you're going to want to take Merciless. I don't really suggest taking much Meditation. I prefer the damage. If you're more of a farm kind of Veigar, if you don't really have to fight back early game because you're playing against noobs, taking Meditation can be fine. I prefer Merciless personally. And then you're going to want to take Dangerous Game. If you're ever in a fight, a 2v2, a team fight, it's going to help keep you alive. Plus, Bandit doesn't make a whole lot of sense on Veigar, in my opinion, since you're mainly farming minions and not harassing. Then you're going to want to take Precision. It's going to give you a lot of magic penetration. Overall, a lot more kill potential and burst potential. And Thunderlord's Decree is by far the most important keystone you can take on Veigar. Taking Deathfire's Touch isn't bad, but taking Thunderlord's Decree is just much better. Storm Raider Surge, you might think, oh, that makes sense. Veigar does a bitch load of damage. He has a lot of bursting. Well, it seems like a good idea, but it's not. With Veigar's kit, he throws out his stun, he throws down his W, his Q, and his ultimate. He pretty much gets a kill, especially if he does it on a squishy target. Therefore, Storm Raider Surge doesn't make a lot of sense, because after he's cast that, he's immediately backing up anyways, and since he has his stun out, enemies can't follow into it, because Veigar's stun is in a circle and it takes up a large section of the map. So after you throw down your stun, no one can chase onto you usually anyways. Therefore, Storm Raider Surge does not make a whole lot of sense. Thunderlord's Decree is much more efficient, and obviously I can take Windspeaker's Blessing. Veigar doesn't even have any heals. Thunderlord's Decree is much better. It secures the kill. If you're just missing a little bit of burst to get the kill, Thunderlord's Decree secures it by getting that extra burst, since you are hitting them with 3 spells. It's very strong. And that's going to wrap up the masteries. Veigar has a lot of options when it comes to items, and it's important you realize your different options so that way you can best build to the situation. When you first start off, Dorn's Ring is a good choice. Dorn's Ring, 2 health potions. This is overall just a really good start against an AP or AD opponent. You can't really go wrong with it. And of course, you're going to get the Warding Totem as well. If you are comfortable in your lane matchup, you know exactly how it works, exactly what to do. Getting Corruption Potion, I think, is the better choice. It's going to give you a lot of sustain and a lot of damage every time you auto attack or hit the enemy with a spell. So that's also a good choice, but only do it if you know the matchup. Early games against an AD opponent, getting Catalyst of the Eons is a great choice. It'll keep you full on HP and mana mostly, and it'll give you higher base mana and higher base health, so that way it'll be hard for them to one-shot you, to go all in on you. And Seeker's Arm Guard is not a bad choice because it will give you some armor, it'll give you ability power, and most importantly, you're going to build it into the Hourglass. So if you're going up against a Zed, getting either one of these is a great choice, same against Talon. But make sure you get one and then build it first before you get the other. Early game versus an AP opponent, getting the Catalyst of the Eons is still a great choice. It's going to give you health and mana. It's going to keep you stocked on health and mana. And once you do get the Catalyst of the Eons, the Negatron Cloak, or the Lost Chapter, getting the Boots of Speed is probably your best choice because it's going to give you a lot of extra movement speed for a very cheap price, for only 300 gold, which is a great option in my opinion. But like I said, make sure you actually buy half an item before you do get your Boots of Speed on Veigar. Getting the Negatron Cloak on Veigar early game is a great idea, especially if you're going to get something like a Diana, a melee AP mid laner, because whenever they go all in on you, since you got the Negatron Cloak, it's going to give you a lot of base magic resist, plus you're going to build into the Abyssal Scepter, which gives you crazy base magic resist, a lot of ability power, cooldown reduction, and when they go all in on you, you can smack them around a little bit since you're going to be reducing their magic resist, so you can blow them up pretty well. So, Catalyst of the Aeons, overall a great choice for both against AD and AP. Negatron Cloak, a great choice against melee AP mid laners, especially because it's so cheap, it's only 720. And Lost Chapter is overall a really safe pick, I guess. I wouldn't say it's safe, but it's not as expensive as the Catalyst of the Aeons, and Lost Chapter will give you loads and loads of mana. So if you're in a lane matchup where you can easily play safe, say you're against something like a Vel'Koz where he can't really hit you since you're just chilling behind your minions, and if he steps up too far, you're going to stun him anyways, the Lost Chapter is a great item because you can just farm with it. Do not build it if you're in a tough lane matchup, like against something like a Zed or a Syndra. It's a terrible choice. You're going to die. It's a really bad choice. So we covered the early game against AP and AD. In the mid game, like I said, if you got the Catalyst of the Aeons either versus an AP or an AD opponent, you're going to build that into the Rod of Aegis right after you get your Boots of Speed. Or if you went with the Negatron Cloak, you're going to get Abyssal Scepter. Or if you went with the Lost Chapter, you're going to get your Morellonomicon. Or if you went with the Seeker's Arm Guard, you're going to get your Zanya's Hourglass. Very simple stuff. Then in the late game, you're going to upgrade your boots to the Sorcerer's Shoes. Then you're most likely going to build your Void Staff, because by now, you're going to have so much ability power that you're going to want some huge magic penetration. 35% magic penetration is freaking massive. And then after that, you're going to want to get your Rabadon's Death Cap. It's going to give you even more ability power, and it's just going to set your kit over the top with some crazy damage. Ideally, this is what your build should look like late game, like 15 minutes into the game. You're going to have all 6 items, and this will give you overall the most AP and the most durability that you could possibly want late game as Veigar. You're going to have enough health and enough magic resist, enough armor to usually sustain any large amounts of damage, so you won't be able to get one-shotted even if you don't click your Hourglass, because you'll have enough health, armor, and magic resist. But if they are throwing a lot of stuff on you and you're out of position, you can just Hourglass. So overall, a great build. These are some other good optional items. If their whole team is melee, I would suggest getting Lichbane, because since they're melee, they're going to be coming on you. You can cast a spell and auto attack, and you're going to be doing shitloads of damage. It's insane. Luden's Echo is also a great choice if you don't want to get the Abyssal Scepter. For example, if it's an AD mid laner. Boots of Swiftness is decent, especially if they have Lost Souls on their team. I would consider getting it. And Boots of Mobility is only if you have to roam, either because you can't lane against your opponent, or if your other lanes really need you to roam. That's the only time you get boots of mobility. And Frost Queen's Claim, I wouldn't ever really suggest building it, but it fits some players' playstyles pretty well. And if you do want to build it, which I do not suggest, after your beginning items, don't go for Catalyst or the Arm Guard or any of these. Go straight for Frost Fang, and then go straight for your Frost Queen's Claim. Very simple. And that's going to wrap up the items, guys. In landing phase, gauge how aggressive your opponent is. You're going to need to really play off of how aggressive your opponent's playing. If he's not playing very aggressive, you can be very casual, auto attack the minions as you please, and then just walk around and set it up for a double Q and just get 2 ability power at a time. If your opponent's being very aggressive, a lot of times you're going to have to Q him instead to get an ability power, because whenever you hit an enemy champion with a spell, it'll give you a permanent 1 ability power. So if he's playing aggressive, just hit him with your Q. If he's not, you can use it just like that and get 2 ability power at a time. This Vel'Koz isn't playing very aggressive right now. He can't really play aggressive at level 1 because he doesn't have the spells to really play aggressive with. So I got another 2 ability power. I'm already sitting on 6, just barely even being into the game, just farming for a little bit. It doesn't seem like a lot, but in these early levels, it can make a huge difference, especially as you keep stacking. If your opponent pushes you under the turret, do your best to farm. Make sure you're not afraid to hit things with your auto attacks. Here I missed quite a bit of CS because I was unwilling to preemptively hit things with my auto attacks, and I was just playing very defensive. In this situation, all you can do is your best at farm. Ideally, what would happen, since Vel'Koz is extended and playing extremely aggressive on me, what we would do is Kha'Zix would come mid, I'd throw out my E, and then it would force Vel'Koz to either flash over it or run into it, and then we just kill him. Veigar excels in matchups like this whenever he's up against a lane opponent who doesn't have a built-in flash or dash into his kit, because just for that very reason, you can just throw out your E, your jungler can come gank, and if your opponent doesn't have their flash, it's going to be an easy kill. That pretty much wraps up the early game in a nutshell. Just do your best to farm, and if you're pushed under your turret, ping for a gank, and you can just throw out your E and usually get a kill, but 99% of the time you can at least get a flash using your E. You can use your W to help you CS. You just drop it out of the sky, and then bam, I just got 2 minions right there. That's 2 permanent mana. Vel'Koz didn't see it coming because he thought I was just going to drop my W and kill the minions with it, so he wasn't really ready to stop me from last hitting it with my Q. Now here I'm just auto-attacking the minions again, and I only got 1 there, but you want to try to do it. You want to see what your minions are attacking, and then attack an opposite minion that's within a linear line of your Q, because your Q shoots out in a straight direction and it will kill 2 targets or hit 2 targets. So you want to do your best to just hit. If an opponent is getting way too aggressive on you, just hit your Corruption Potion Flask, keep auto-attacking, don't panic, and make sure you land your Q, and when you can, try to land your E and then set it up with your W, because you really can't even use your W without landing your stun first. And now that I've gotten a kill, I can just relax, push wave, and last hit with my Q. People like Lee Sin will take advantage of you because they can usually go through your E or move around it because they're so mobile. So if they do come after you, the best thing you can do is retreat to your turret, especially if you're low on mana. And if you're lucky, they might just be stupid and dive you. If you've been farming well and the enemy jungler hasn't managed to shut you down, you'll be finding that you can last hit with your Q quite easily. You'll be starting to figure out the health of the minions, and you can use it with very little thought and get 2 minion kills at a time. Here you see I landed my E on Vel'Koz. Immediately after throwing out my E and he ran into it, I immediately cast my W, so that way by the time it falls out of the sky, it'll land on him before he was out of the stun. So I just throw out my E, then my W, then my Q, then my ultimate. Here Vel'Koz is missing a little bit of health. I land my E again, W, Q, and ult. It's an easy pickup kill. The Thunderlords put the damage a little bit over the top, and I did secure the kill. And you see that sexy. It's so satisfying to kill 2 minions at a time with your Q, because you know it's 2 permanent ability power. And you know it's just going to scale ridiculous. If you put enough hours with Veigar and you practice him enough, you'll be able to land his E without them even having to run into it. So there, I didn't even land my E on him. If I would have, I could have done half his health quite easily. So now my E is on cooldown, and I took a decent amount of damage. I do hit him with my Q though. Vel'Koz gets a little bit aggressive, and then my jungler luckily comes in and saves me. That is an example of why you need to learn the exact range of your E and where you need to put it for the edge to hit him. It's a little bit trickier, especially since there's a 0.5 second delay, but with practice you can definitely do it. If the range of it is a little bit foreign to you, or if you just can't get the hang of it, you don't have to quick cast it like me. I just have it so we'll cast immediately. You can put it on the normal cast so that way you can see the exact perimeter of the spell. As the game goes on, it'll get stronger and stronger. You can start throwing out your W and your E and forcing them to run into it, and then just follow it up with your Q and your ultimate and pick up easy kills. It's what you saw there is I just threw out my E. He panicked a little bit, and I threw my W in between my E and him, so that way if he walked forward, he was going to get Q'd. If he walked backwards, he was going to get stunned, and the W is going to fall on him. His best choice in that scenario was to walk off to the right to dodge the meteor and the stun. I just put him in a little bit of a sticky situation, and he reacted poorly to it. Here I overstayed my welcome a little bit. Brand picks up an easy kill. I was like, what the fuck is this Brand? I don't understand his kit. And I do end up dying from him. He did spend his summoners, but still. The funny thing is it's not even late game, but since I'm decently fed on kills and minion farm, I can just throw out my E, land my W, my Q, and my ultimate, and easily one-shot somebody. Right there you saw I didn't even need my ultimate that badly. I probably did 600, 700 more damage than he had health there. That's pretty much Veigar in a nutshell. Do your best to farm early without getting harassed too much. If you're under your turret, ask for a gank and just throw out your E and get an easy kill. If you can manage not to get stomped too hard early game, you can just enjoy yourself and watch how you become easily the most OP champion in the game. If this video helped you guys out, consider dropping me a like and subscribing. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next video.